Hello and a warm welcome to this video. Today we are heading outside with our paints and our sketchbooks to share with you and demonstrate how I choose what to capture in the landscape. If you've ever gone to paint a landscape and you felt overwhelmed at the amount of information and inspiration on offer, then I really hope that these ideas help you out. In this video, we are focusing on this idea of simplification, and I'll be demonstrating for you this in two ways. If we've never met before, my name is Orla, I'm an artist and an illustrator, and as you may be able to guess, my work is inspired by nature, landscape, and getting outdoors with my sketchbooks. I also wanted to tell you a little bit more about an online creative community that we're building for art and nature lovers, but more on that later in this video. The very first thing that I love to do when it comes to choosing what to capture in the landscape is to simplify everything right down. The first way that I like to do this is to break the landscape into some very simplified and clear areas of colour and shapes. Although there is so much texture and life going on around us, there's all of the different shapes and forms of trees, there's the ripples in the water, the reflections, these amazing shapes of rocks on the beach. If I started thinking about all of that at once at the beginning, I would give myself a really hard time and quickly get overwhelmed. So instead, what we're going to do is break down the landscape into clear areas of colour and shape. And in a minute, I will show you how I go about referencing the textures and the different more detailed elements that I can see in the landscape around us, and how we can also go about simplifying that right down too. The first thing that I love to do when it comes to simplifying the landscape is to break my landscape down into some very simple shapes and colours. There is so much going on, there are so many textures, but if I were to start thinking about that in the beginning, I would quickly get very, very overwhelmed. So instead, what I like to do is to break my picture down into some simple blocks of shapes and areas of colour, and just have a bit of a play with materials as I mark out those areas. So as you can see, that was really, really simple and really, really simplified. Do not worry if it feels overly basic at the moment. This is our first layer and we can work into it, build on top of it, and really bring our painting to life later on. This first step is all about just outlining those really simple shapes and forms. I'm going to go ahead and do that a couple more times so that I can look at different viewpoints in the landscape and give you a few more demonstrations too. It feels a little bit funny showing you these paintings at such early preliminary stages. It feels a little bit scary, to be honest, but this is the process and you've got to trust it and go with it, and trust that the more layers you add and the more you work into these really, really simple forms and shapes with extra textures, extra mediums, that's what's going to bring them to life and just make it much more exciting. So starting simple is really good for getting you stuck in, and now I'm going to show you how I develop these forwards. This is the kind of middle stage, if you like, where I'm using texture to bring in a lot of extra depth and interest, I suppose, to the paintings. I don't want these simple shapes to feel flat, and so what I love to do is bring in lots of texture using all sorts of different types of tools. Sometimes I'm using the ends of my paint tubes, sometimes I'm using paint lids, other times you'll find me adding texture with my fingers, with all sorts of different types of tools. You can really have a good play here when it comes to adding texture. And I think the more wild and free and the less cares you can give in this step really help to instill the piece with energy, which is always what I'm looking to capture, especially when I'm responding to nature and landscape, as it's that energy of being there that excites me and that I'm wanting to instill into my paintings. When it comes to simplifying my painting process, there has been one thing which has become my absolute North Star, and that has been thinking about contrasts. When I'm looking to guide my work forwards, I ask myself, how are the contrasts in my colours? How are the contrasts in my textures? In the scale of my marks, of my lines? Any element of painting you can think about, I ask myself, how is the contrast in this? If contrast is something that you would like to learn a little bit more about, maybe dive deeper, get some more insight, and have some time to practice, we're going to be exploring this topic in September over on the Outdoor Sketchbook Collective. If you're watching this video further into the future, past September 2025, you can hop back onto the platform and access all of the resources and workshop recordings on this topic to help guide your exploration too. I've left a wee link in the video description down below if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about all things contrast. I've been working into these paintings for around an hour now. Here's an example of one of the pieces. This is probably the third or the fourth layer, I would say. Just bringing in layer upon layer upon layer with my textures to help bring definition to those shapes and forms that we set at the beginning in that first layer. What I'm going to demonstrate for you now is how to bring in details into your paintings whilst keeping this simple approach, not looking to capture all the details we can see, but just one or two elements. I'm also going to demonstrate how to stay loose while we're adding these details, because this is often the point where I feel myself naturally tighten up. The moment we start to add little nods to landscape, little details which are more representational, it can become very easy to want to capture things analytically, very representationally. So I wanted to demonstrate how I avoid doing this. Before I bring these details into my paintings, I thought I could just break down this process for you on a clean piece of paper. So when I'm bringing in details, I often love to use my oil pastels to create lines and textures with. You can see I've already drawn out a little path there, some marks to represent grass. And it's this kind of process of representing the thing rather than drawing it exactly how it is that I'm encouraging us to explore today. For instance, if I were to draw the ripples in the water, which I can see in front of me, I might be able to use this Inktense block to create some really beautiful lines. Or if I were to paint the building, which I'm about to do in just a second, I could paint this space with texture around the shape of that building using my negative space. And that might be enough of a detail and a representational nod to bring in for me. To get creative and expressive with these details, I'm always asking myself, how can I use these materials in new ways? To perhaps create the branches of a tree, I might be able to just apply my paint straight to the page using the nozzle of the brush, which creates some really beautiful textures here. And I might be able to do something similar with the ink as well, using the nib to draw in. If I were looking to draw grasses, is there a way I could use some splats to represent those reeds? Or perhaps the movement of clouds could be represented through fast moving splatters with my ink directly to the page. It's this kind of mixed media exploration, mark making exploration, which can really open up so many playful and exciting ways to represent these details without getting het up in the representational side of things. So I'll demonstrate this for you now, bringing that into the actual paintings themselves. If you've been enjoying this video so far and you're interested to find out more how you can use your art to connect to nature and make more time and space for play in your art practice, then I'd love to invite you to come and check out the Outdoor Sketchbook Collective. It is our online resource hub and community for artists all around the world to get together through a shared love of creativity, experimentation, play, and nature connection. Every month on the Outdoor Sketchbook Collective, I release new video tutorials, written guides, we host monthly online workshops, as well as co-working calls and a whole host of other good things. When you sign up for 1 month, you get access to all of the resources on the platform, so you can have a real good inspirational deep dive. If you'd like to find out more, I've left a link in the video description down below, and as always, if you've got any questions at all, feel free to leave me a comment. Before we wrap up, I wanted to invite you to give this video a like, perhaps hit the subscribe button or the bell icon to be notified when more videos like this come out. Your support in this way really helps me share these videos wider with the world, with more people that might connect with them too. The last exciting news to share is that my brand new notebook design is now available directly through my website at orlastevens.com. I've titled it Field Notes because the design has been inspired by all the colours, the marks, the textures which I've been gathering in my sketchbooks. You can read more about the design process of this notebook over on my blog, and check out this brand new design which is now available with both plain and lined papers directly over on my website. I hope the ideas shared in this video are helpful for you when you're next met with too much inspiration. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you give the ideas in this video a whirl, I would love to see what you get up to. Simply use the hashtag The Outdoor Sketchbook Collective on Instagram for us to find your work easily. I hope you have a creative week ahead, and as always, I will see you outside.